It is a great pleasure to welcome Lindsay Barr on this podcast. She is a musician and an artist from Peterborough, Ontario. How are you today, Lindsay? Thank you for joining the
Well,
show.
oh, well, thanks for having me. I'm well. I'm doing well today.
Yes, I can say so myself. So
Wonderful.
first things first, I would like to wish you a happy belated Canada Day.
Thanks.
Yeah. So
And yourself as well. Did you have a good long weekend?
um, I did not celebrate Canada Day because I do not live in Canada, but I enjoyed a good, relaxing weekend.
Where do you live?
Vienna, Austria, currently.
Is that right? I know this isn't an interview for you, but that's very interesting.
Yes, it is.
Right on.
It's a lovely city. Yeah.
So how did you hear about me? Just like Peterborough musicians or?
Yeah. I used to live in Peterborough for a number of
Oh, okay.
years.
Did you study at Trent?
Yes.
Right on. So
Mhm.
you're familiar with the area. Okay. I'm getting what's going on. Are you still studying?
Yes, but not a trend, obviously.
Well, in Austria. Wow, man. Good for
Hmm.
you.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I'm piecing it all together now.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Peterborough's music scene. I know a good number of people who are not currently living there. So,
Right on.
yeah. So, what did you guys do on Canada Day weekend?
I just hung out with my husband's family, and it was just a lovely day in the country. And we had a barbecue and got to hang out with each other. And that's it was just really nice and chill.
Hmm. I'm glad to hear it. I think I was always out for summers when Canada Day came around. I think except for the years 2020 and 2021 because of COVID, I was stuck there. Um,
Hmm.
uh, Specifically in Peterborough, and yeah, I had a fun time. Yeah, it was a kind of a mixed blessing in some ways because
Hmm.
Canadian summers are much more beautiful than I imagined to be.
Yeah, it's today is particularly warm. Like uh, I think it's reading at 40 with the humidex.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, if you're working outside or doing any laborious work outside, you'd be feeling it today, that's for sure.
Hmm.
But yes, beautiful summers.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm originally from Vietnam, so I think the hottest days of Canada is nowhere near what we experience during our summers. So I guess I
Way
kind of
hotter? Is that what you're saying?
it's way
Are you
hotter.
saying it's hotter?
Yeah, it's way hotter in
Oh,
Hanoi. Yeah. But the
I've never
coldest
been.
days, however, yeah, the coldest days are not as cold as what you guys have here. So,
Yeah. Yeah, there's two extremes in Canada, North America, in parts of North America.
mhm. Yeah. So, I wonder if what are some of your most recent shows, musical shows that you've done, and are there any coming up?
Yeah. Well, this weekend coming, I'm playing at Ribfest on Friday night,
Mhm.
and it's just at Millennial Park downtown. It draws a really great crowd, and we're headlining that 8:45 till I believe 10:30.
Mhm.
And then the next day we're playing a festival in Campbellford, which is a, a city nearby, Peterborough, about 45 minutes away, a little town actually, it's not a city. And they have this lovely festival that hosts music, but also has all kinds of food vendors, similar with Rib Fest, but it's specifically ribs. But the food vendors, incredible edible festival, and we're playing there in Campbellford on Saturday, July 8th at 5:30.
Uh,
And then I have another show coming up in Killaloe, and it's called Killaloe Craft Fair, and it's northeast of Peterborough, and it's a really neat festival, and it's pretty grassroots, and we're playing there. I believe it's August 12th. Yeah, so I got some fun things going on. I'm not playing nearly as much as I used to, but the shows we do play are festival based, and so I got a few dates this summer.
Hmm. I hear you. Yeah. Next time I come to Peterborough, I really should check out more of its music scene because I think I got to know more of what Peterborough's music consists of like when I left, because when I was there I was just studying almost
Yeah,
the entirety of the
yeah,
time.
head in the
So,
book.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. What can you say about Peterborough's music scene?
Oh, it's prolific. It's a tight knit community for sure, and there's many musicians that are definitely professional and are doing really well at promoting themselves. Peterborough's always been known as a bit of a music town. There's a lot of great up and coming musicians in the city that are putting out their own original music. And what I can say about the Peterborough music scene is it's pretty solid, and I've been a part of it for many years, and I'm certainly proud to be a part of it. It's a nice city to live in for the most part. I've had a good time here, and I moved away for a lot of years. I was on the East Coast, and I came back, and since I've been back, I just dove headfirst into making music. And then past few years, well, inevitably in 2020 and a little bit beyond, there was some definite challenges. But yeah, I'm just working at making original music and putting out music videos. And I feel living around Peterborough, man, you can do all of that, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, and of course, based on my introduction, you're also a visual artist. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, I'm a painter. I do a lot of illustration as well. Uh, I studied fine art at NASCAD University, which is in Halifax. I went on to study other things, but that's the original what I went to university for and what I spent most of my life doing. I was creating art before I did any sort of musical endeavor professionally. So I was always drawing as a kid, and then moved on to into high school. I had a really amazing high school art teacher who really pushed us, and that's when I started to really take it seriously. So now I paint a lot. Yeah. I paint. There's a really old painting behind me. You might not be able to see it very well. That's probably 20 years old.
Hmm.
Yeah, maybe even 22 years old. It's not great lighting on it. But yeah, there lots of painting going on around here, and I draw a lot. I just finished a series. It's called While the Wee Bairn Sleeps, and it's a series of 10 paintings that are inspired by um, slumber and sleep. And I was able to create these paintings while my 15-month-old was napping or
Hmm.
sleeping. And so I'd have these little shots of moments where I'd set myself up and, okay, maybe I'll get an hour if he naps, or an hour and 15. And if I could max out 2 hours a day, then I'm cooking, I'm getting some work done. So I
Hmm.
got 10 paintings done, and I hung them at Jethro's downtown, which is a real musician's bar. So there's 10 paintings down there, and that's my latest work. And other than that, I draw on a daily basis and just do these kooky, weird characters, and it satisfies something in my soul.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah, I don't remember going to Jet Rose too much. I remember going to the Black Horse a lot. I think
Yeah, yeah,
when I was leaving, and that was like late 2021, Jet Rose was still like taking off, right? It was still like opening.
yeah. It was just I'm not sure what the exact date was, but yeah, they've. I think I don't know the exact date, but yes, they were opening when things were easing up. And
Ah.
man, I mean, it's like 7 nights a week of music, and they're doing some afternoon gigs. They're doing 3 gigs on the weekend a night. They got an early show, a middle show, and a late show. It's pretty happening. Yeah,
Mhm.
we like playing there when we can.
All right. Yeah, I should come whenever the opportunity presents itself. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do know that Peterborough has a vibrant art scene too. This is the event that I go whenever I can called the Art Crawl, right? Which is at the first Monday or Sunday of each month. And I wonder if you.
First Friday, yeah.
Oh, Friday. Yes, Friday. Sorry. And yeah, do you present your artworks there on occasion?
Yeah. Yeah, actually what I was just talking about, the 10 paintings while the wee bairn sleeps. Um, these paintings I released on the first Friday. It was part of the first Friday art crawl on June 2nd. And my band subsequently played at the venue as well that night. And it was great. There was so much happening that night. And I tried to get to as many of the venues as I could, but because I was playing, I was limited. But man, it's a great thing here in Peterborough. It really exposes a lot of artists. But the truth is that's the first time I have participated as a visual artist. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So what brought you into creating music?
Hmm. I feel like it was a pretty innate internal thing. I've always been moved by music. I believe I was moved more so by music in movement as a child. I was a figure skater and a gymnast. And I was certainly I certainly led with rhythm and movement and um I I was very athletic and involved in gymnastics for my formative years. I was a competitive gymnastics and I do these routines and I was so moved by the music we were chosen by my coach, and so that's the beginning of my love of music was through dance and movement, also in figure skating. And then I had an ability to sing, and I knew I could sing. I knew I had a sensibility for singing, but I had no training, and I had a very booming I guess strong voice even as a little kid, but I didn't know how to harness it.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I hit my teens, I was starting to get a little bit better at singing, and my older brother was a musician, so I was exposed to instruments, guitars namely, through him. They were always around, and then I guess I started trying my hand at that around 15 or 16, and then I put it all together, and the music, and I had an affinity for writing. I loved poetry even as a really little kid, writing stories, stuff like this. Still love writing. And then I just put it all together. And then, oh, wow, singer songwriter. And I didn't really have that dream or trajectory when I was a little girl. But soon in my teens, I realized that that was certainly a goal of mine. And it became a huge part of my life by the time I was in my early 20s. I was playing professionally all over the place, and I was on the East Coast, and I learned a lot. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and started being in bands, and
I see.
yeah,
Wow. So did you always
I
grow up
guess it
in,
started pretty early.
yeah? Did you
Say it
always grow
again.
up in Peterborough?
I grew up in a little town not too far from here called Port Hope. I'm originally from Newfoundland, but we came to Ontario when I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
My parents live in Newfoundland now, and I have lived in Newfoundland for since I've been a child. But yeah, I grew up for the most part in small town Ontario in Port Hope, right on the Ganaraska River.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a nice upbringing. It was spooky little town. And went to all my schooling right up to I think grade 10. And then I moved to Peterborough, went to grade 11, and then moved back to Port Hope, lived in a little apartment and finished my high school just to be around my friends I had been around my whole life. But yeah, for the most part, I grew up in Port Hope, and then my family moved to Peterborough when I was 17. So yeah, Peterborough and Port Hope, and then in my 20s, I was in Newfoundland and Halifax for the better part of my 20s,
Wow.
and
So
then
you
came
move,
back.
yeah. So you move about a lot.
I did. I was in BC for a year too, right after high school. That was a great experience. I was a ski instructor, and a bit of a ski bum, really. I lived at the mountain, and so that was a great adventure, and did a lot of hiking and camping and stuff. But yeah.
Mhm. So I'm guessing that involves changing schools quite often. How's that experience, I guess, influence you, so to speak?
Well, I did change high school. I did change high schools once, and I've been to university, and I've been to college twice.
Mhm.
I guess three times because I'm still studying. But being the new kid, I was okay at. I think I was confident to a default. Like I don't know if it served me well. Uh, but yeah, I got a little group of friends, and people were pretty cool to me. When I first moved to Peterborough, there was this guy in high school, and he was beloved to many, and his name was Josh Dufresne, and he's sadly since passed. And he was a wonderful musician, and he always had sunglasses on, and he'd sing people's names and make up stories or songs about them on the spot. And he was the first person at high school to just kind of be like, when I moved high schools, to be like, hey, how are you? You want to hang out? I'll show you around. And I thought that was real cool. And he'd always sing these songs as I was coming down the hallway. And I thought that was so cool. But I was actually there. It was an art school. I was there not for music. I was there for visual art and theater. Yeah. But I don't know. Being the new kid kind of sucks. But if you're open and you're kind, then people respond to that, right? And I feel like everyone was kind of nice. And then then I moved back to Port Hope, and I was just with all the friends that I had already known all along,
Mhm.
So I just kind of went back home.
I see. Yeah. Do you still keep in touch with your grade school friends?
uh I do. There's there are very specific relationships that I still put a lot of time into. Yes. Yes, I do. Um I actually reconnected with one of my great friends through school, and sometimes you grow apart just because, life, and you become adults and take different paths. But she recently had a son, and we connected through that, and we had a lovely visit. So that was a nice new rekindling of a old relationship. But yes, I do have friends that I'm still very close with from grade school days. Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, I remember switching high schools once, but for the first 17 years of my life, I lived in the same place, Hanoi, Vietnam. So big city. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know, maybe there's a difference between small town and big city, but I didn't have a good experience in high school. I don't know. Everyone was kind of cold and mean and sad. I,
That's no fun. Did you went to from Vietnam to small town?
yeah, and that small
I
town
mean,
being Peterborough, I suppose.
okay. So was it high school? You came in, I think I was thinking you came in at university level. You came to Peterborough when you were 17?
Yes.
Okay. So you didn't have a good experience.
No, not in high school. And frankly, there were some pretty bad experience when I was at Trent too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's no fun.
Mhm. Yeah. I think a good indicator of that being that I didn't keep in touch with too many people after I leave school. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That is a good indicator. And then that's not worth it. I mean, if people aren't going to treat you right, then right? You
Mhm.
hold on to the good ones and you move on from the bad ones, and that's it.
Mhm.
But that's too bad, because people miss out when you treat people poorly. You miss out on a possible friendship,
Mhm. I know. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, what are you studying currently?
I'm doing mental health for nurses through Durham,
Hmm.
and I'm done all the studying part. It's consists of six classes, and that's taken me a couple years to complete, and I've completed that portion. But now I have to do 90 hours practicum, which is like on site working at some level of psychiatric care, and so I have yet to do that, and that's slated for the fall.
Hmm. So the 90 hours, they're all like psychiatric related, like you're assigned to
Oh
like
yeah.
psych wards and such, right?
Yeah, hopefully it depends where I'm placed, but I would my preference would be on a hospital level psychiatric floor is what I prefer, if that is available, but time will tell.
Mhm.
We'll see.
I see. Yeah. What makes you decide you want to do pursue this course of study?
What, sorry, can you say that again?
What makes you decide you wish to pursue this course of study?
Oh man, that's a deep question. I feel like mental health was the driving force to get into nursing,
Mhm.
uh to begin with, to specialize in mental health and psychiatric care. And the driving force is I feel like I have a gift for people. And in my years before becoming a nurse, I was a personal support worker. And at that time, I learned that, I would care for people who were in some pretty, some people were in some pretty dark places, and some people were in a lot of physical pain. Um, they weren't like, if you were needing my help, there were so many different spectrums, but I think what resonated with me most was um, people's emotions. And when you're really sick, um, and your health has been compromised in a way that you can no longer care for yourself, you're in a very vulnerable state. And I felt that people felt safe with me. And I feel that I have a knack for people in duress.
Mhm.
So when people are having some emotional troubles or having difficulties and slipping into dark thoughts and such, I have I don't know, I care, I guess. I guess that's where it's coming from. So the opportunity arose to continue my studies, and I thought, man, this is a good move. This is a good move because I love making music. I love making art. However, I find it tremendously hard to sustain myself at a level
Yeah.
that, you know, is gonna, secure a pension. And so I had to make a move, and nursing was it. And so the driving force is, I guess, I care, and I have a real interest in psychiatric studies. I have a real interest in behaviors. I have a real interest in how people manifest their troubles in life,
Mhm.
and how it plays out, and everything truly is connected. Yeah. And then there's also another driving force where I have some very, very close people in my life who have struggled with mental health issues. And I feel like, although I felt helpless with some of those specific people, I feel that perhaps I can do something through my work as a nurse to kind of redeem those feelings. that I have of helplessness with the people that like I just can't help,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
I, yeah,
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, and that's very wonderful to hear. Yeah, I do. I think if I could get personal a bit, I do remember having to utilize Peterborough's as mental health outpatient programs.
Mhm.
And because again, as I've alluded earlier, I had some very bad times when I was at Trent, and I didn't make any good friends, and there were people who were I thought were good friends, but turned out to be very awful people. And I was alone in this town, so it was susceptible to some pretty debilitating mental health troubles. And I'm I think I was truly I think I felt truly alone at that time. And you know, the question I was always in my mind was uh how can people how are they not willing to see the world the way I see it so that they can understand how I feel. And you know oftentimes psychiatric hospitals for are for those who who are unable to care for themselves, but there are those who are living in the world, who are functioning in society, who uh,
Absolutely.
yeah who despite the fact that they can function, they find it very hard to. And I guess I'm one of those people.
Mhm. I mean, when we talk about mental health and mental wellness, that includes everybody,
Mhm.
right? That's not, you know, just people who are so destitute that they can't go on. There are so many, it's a very personal thing too for people who have different thresholds and experiences. And it sounds like you were really desperate for connection that you weren't getting. And that emotional maturity to seek help that is outside of, friendship in a way where you're seeking outpatient help, that is, I mean, commendable in many ways, because that shows an emotional maturity that you're willing to grow. And unfortunately, you were treated poorly and that affected you greatly,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And in my experience switching schools and such, I didn't feel I was treated poorly, but I also, like I said, had a bit of a unwarranted confidence and an inhibition about me that I think people sometimes feel intimidated by. And I've since really learned from that and humbled myself. But what you're explaining to me is you formed some relationships that turned out to sour, and that's never fun for anybody, placing your trust in people.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think I'm actually feeling the same way am I and when I'm in Vienna too. I think that's why I'm planning to move soon to another city, Budapest, Hungary, to be more specific. Um,
Wow.
yeah, that I think the same problems that I'm encounter at Trent were encounter here, although at a deeper level, because um, people people are generally more hostile to strangers here, to outsiders.
Gotcha.
The city, yeah, the people are not merely cold, they are rude, and I don't think many people at my school are willing to be friends with me, despite my best attempts, you know.
Yeah. Are there many international students?
Oh yeah, there are many.
So where do you think this is stemming from?
Hmm.
Like, why do you think that people are not willing to be friends with you? Do you feel it's because you're from another country? Or do you feel it's something within yourself? Or what do you feel? Or are people just cold and ugly and angry, and or what do you think it is?
I think they may have they judge things harshly and hastily. That's my conclusion. They see me and they have their preconceived notions of what someone who exhibits similar traits like me should behave, right? And
Sure.
and I'm not that stereotype.
Yeah, that's no fun. Yeah, that's no fun for anybody. I mean, geez, to be prejudged is just so unfair. I'm sorry you're feeling those things. I'm sorry you're feeling those things to a point that you need to go to another country and another city.
Mhm.
Like that's pretty major.
Yeah, I hope things improve when I'm in another city. I've visited many times before. I've had good experiences all around. Yeah, I've been able to find people, so to speak, and I have family there. So I hopefully
Right on.
will turn out for
What
better.
about what about Vietnam? You ever been back?
Um, I was back last year.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Did it go well?
Mm, I would say it was a mixed experience. Yeah, I am. To be honest, I've never been that fondly connected with the country of my birth. Mhm.
Even when you were a little kid?
No, yeah, something about the way something about the unwritten customs and norms that do not fit, so to speak. Yeah.
Hmm. I
And
can't speak to it because I've never been, but that's really interesting.
mhm. I guess the best way I can explain is that there are always certain expectations that you are supposed to fulfill, but they
Mhm.
never really tell you what they are. You only know it when you've failed them or you have failed to live up to them, and you are given very harsh treatment because of it. That yeah, that's my
Did you feel like you were a happy kid?
no, far from it.
No.
I had happy
Yeah.
moments, but overall,
Yeah.
I think I had a terrible childhood followed by a terrible
Okay.
adolescence.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, as we know, so much is stemmed from our childhood, right? We form our views on the world at a very, very young age.
Mhm,
And it sounds like you carry it into your adulthood,
mhm.
right? It's like you're searching for that idea of joy, but you had just moments of joy as a child, right? Did you have brothers or sisters?
A younger brother.
A younger brother?
Mhm.
Were you friends?
I would say so. Although he likes different things than I am, and so we do not have too much conversation about anything really these days.
Mhm.
But I can say that he's by far the closest person I've had in the family.
Oh, that's good. Well, that's a positive thing. Yeah, that's interesting. It strikes me that you say that you didn't have a good childhood and didn't have a good adolescent. I feel like there's maybe a bit of darkness there. Like, do you feel sad now as an adult, or do you feel joy, even momentarily?
Um, Brief moments of joy, followed by a pretty like an ambiance of sadness, so to speak.
Oh.
Yeah,
Do you feel lonely?
all the time.
Yeah. So it does sound like you're really searching for connections. And when you don't get it, you feel really betrayed.
Oh yes.
Um, yeah. Yeah. What does bring you joy?
Um, Music mostly, and I engage in a lot of hobbies aside from music. I don't play music, by the way, but there are when I am engaged in what I call my interests and hobbies, this one being one of them, I feel a brief respite of not sad, and also when something happened unexpectedly that had a positive turn, then sure, I feel happy. Like, for example, when of any everything that happened, I found somebody who's a friend or a connection or someone who I can talk to in a meaningful sense, then sure, that's when I'm quite happy.
And you find yourself talking to me in Canada.
Yeah.
Does that make you feel anything? Do you feel good? Or because
Yeah.
you're very fluid at discussing, it's not like you're difficult to talk to in any way. I mean,
Well, I'm glad we got connected. Sure.
yeah. Well, I'm sorry you feel lonely all of the time.
Mhm.
You know, so many people feel lonely.
I know.
Loneliness is can be bottomless, can be empty, can be dark, and I have this song that I'm writing now, and it's called Empty Chairs. The premise of the song, I really feel that a lot of people can relate to. And the visual is sitting at a table full of food with a big banquet table
Mm.
full of celebratory foods of whatever your liking is, and it's just and the starting of the lyric is empty tables, empty chairs, dark hallway, no one goes down there. Lonely heart, just another day. Time passes slowly, wastes away. And I feel a lot of people can really connect to the idea of loneliness, particularly for what we just went through on a worldwide scope. There
Mhm.
was heightened level of mental wellness happenings and mental health issues and feelings of loneliness, and that can exacerbate for people who already feel lonely. And it just seems like there's a common theme throughout what you're telling me, and the lack of deep connection and relationship is gets you down,
Mhm.
which I can understand that, and I have definitely had moments of deep loneliness in my life.
Mhm. Yeah, and there's that album by Frank Sinatra, In the Wee Small Hours. It's one of my favorite records, and I think about it every time, and I try to listen to it every time loneliness strikes, which is all the time, really.
Oh
And
man.
that's yeah, that's how I came to be fond of music, because more than most people, really, listening to some record made by someone who I've never met, who may be living or dead, actually made me felt less lonely than whether I'm being in a party or even sometimes with my family, extended or close, or even with people I thought of as my friends.
Wow, that's pretty profound. um so art and music and poetry you really resonate with. This is something that makes you feel alive
Mhm. And not lonely. So
and not lonely.
yeah, nice. Amongst other things too. I mean, based on the title of the show, philosophy is also a great pastime of mine.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, so your podcast, are you exclusively interviewing musicians or just having conversations with interesting people, or what is the draw? What is,
Um, I started out interviewing musicians exclusively. It was it started the show actually started as a radio program. Trend Radio was the host of it, and later on, because my interest broadened, and I want to talk to people who are yeah, who are not musicians but still I find interesting. So, and I tend to gravitate to people who have a philosophical perspective on everything, including politics and society and even art. So the name of the show was changed.
oh, gotcha. Wow, good for you.
Mhm.
And if you go skip country, are you going to continue giving podcast interviews internationally? I mean, it's a great idea. For I mean, I thought you were here in Peterborough.
Mhm. Well, it would be the case 2 years ago, sure.
Yeah, it would be the case.
Mhm.
You're going to just keep doing it
Um,
if you go to Budapest as well?
I'm planning to, yeah.
Good for you.
Mhm. Yeah. So I guess my turn to ask the questions now. So do you
Yeah,
find
sorry, I'm terrible.
I wonder, do you find that you can, I guess, express your ability to help people mentally through the medium of art, say music and painting, the same way that you do with your work as a nurse?
Also, really cool question. I believe on some levels. Yeah. Clinically speaking, when someone is dealing with mental wellness or psychiatric issue that needs to be monitored by medication, um, and is at the level that they need to seek help, inpatient help to monitor said medications and such, you're getting into a different level of help, right? However, I do believe I have the ability to help people through music and art. I think a lot of my music at times has been kind of jovial and happy, and it's funny because two of the songs I'm releasing this summer really have an undertone of sadness and an undertone of darkness. And one is called Empty Chairs, and the other one is unreleased yet. I'm just starting to talk about it. It's called Snake Bite. And it is based around the idea of deceit and loss and emptiness and loneliness. And I feel those may be more poignant in helping people than some of my happier stuff. I have some tunes that are just kind of novelty, fun tunes. I Don't Dance is coming to my mind as one tune that's kind of novelty and fun. But maybe that can help someone too, if someone needs to dance around the living room or let it out. But I tell you, when I feel helped by music, and I'm notorious for listening to a song over and over and over and over again when I'm not feeling good, when I'm down in the dumps, when my head ain't right, when I'm not thinking, when I'm in a negative space, I'll just ruminate. I do have a rumination issue that I feel like I've always kind of had, because I've always just listened to whatever that song is at the time and just listen and listen and listen and listen. So I feel like I've been helped by music, and I certainly feel like visual arts help me when I create. So if I don't know for sure, I sure do hope that somehow, some way, if needed, the creation that I've done through art or music can help someone for sure.
I see. This is a very wonderful answer, I think, and it brings me to. I wonder if you felt familiar with this album. Was it "Louder Than Bombs" by the Smiths?
Do you replay it over and over and over again?
Yeah, I was mentioning this one song that I played over and over again, and that is song number 24, "Asleep." I think this in this,
Oh,
and it's a wonderful and melancholic song, of course, and yeah, and yeah, I remember this one particular bad day of my life where I think I replayed it for 3 hours. So
wait.
I
Did it
know.
help you?
I mean, I suppose I it didn't help me be less sad, but it
Yeah.
certainly helped, keep me company.
Yeah.
That's how I
To
feel.
work through it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. The listening, I think, yeah, from in my experience, I feel like music has certainly helped me. And not just like my own, I mean, other musicians I've admired over the years and the songs. And so I guess, yes, the answer is yes.
Hmm. Yes, I feel the same way. And I guess I should, as a side, really, there's a reason why I become interested in philosophy, which is I which is kind of shame because not too many people are interested in it the same way as I do, even though we all have a philosophical sense, so to speak. Um, I think there's a particular wave of philosophy that comes from Germany, and it manifests itself in existentialism. And what I like about it is that it is trying to ask questions which we humans today don't ask a lot, and these questions pertain to our place in the world and our place among fellow humans, and what are we as humans. And I certainly feel like we ask too many questions about doing, and we don't ask too many questions about being. And I think I think asking more questions about being will help us figure out a direction in life, and that might alleviate the sense of hopelessness and meaninglessness and loneliness that pervades modern society.
I mean, you're really revealing yourself there, like through all of what you've said, like meaningless. Sure, I think there are moments of meaninglessness among us, for sure. And I do think we stink and reek of doing, because the idea of doing is almost like a gratification at the end. Something, I do this in order to get this.
Mhm.
And the idea of being, there's something really honest in that. And to tell you the truth, I haven't really thought of this line of thought. I've been in Germany for like, I went to Dusseldorf for a day, but it does, I really feel like there is a bit of solemnness in how you perhaps you view things. And maybe by a default, i'm I can be very positive, or this is what I should say, I can be viewed as very positive. I have a big smile, bright eyes, I'm very friendly, right? All these things. So it looks like I'm a jovial, fun for the whole family all the time. But I can be very pessimistic.
Mhm.
I can be very cynical. I can be very negative and self-talk, negatively self-talking myself. I will have no problem complimenting people and then at the same time have this inward battle with my own self, right?
Mhm.
But there's something that tells me there's a bit of sadness and solemnness as to how you view the the world. And that philosophy that you're talking to, do less doing, more being, it strikes me as very interesting because it does, it makes me have to think for a moment to kind of grasp it. Because I certainly enjoy philosophical speakings and existentialism, and I'm an avid reader, and but I'm just trying to think about like philosophies of just like down home Canadian, because it is truly a culture. I mean, I've been different places in the world and thought just completely regular behaviors of my own or are could be accepted, but they're not, or I misunderstood something because I understand the world in a different way, or even physicality, like having my tattoos showing in certain places, and just being ignorant to that fact. And that's a cultural thing. But the philosophical ideas, the almost unwritten, unspoken, is because it's omnipresent no matter where you are. And if you're clever enough, like yourself, to kind of sit in that, I mean, geez, you need to go to like a discussion group or something. Do you hear what I'm saying? Like, have you ever been to a group of people who just, here's the topic, let's talk about it?
Well, I try to do it more than I should. Um, Although I haven't found a good discussion group here in
Yeah,
Vienna. Although I have done so in Budapest actually. So
right.
that's better. So
You know, people, individuals, myself included, that the idea of connection, right? It can mean something so different from one person to another. Some people are very physical. Some people, their idea of connection is they don't feel connected unless, people are laughing with them or laughing at them or find them funny or gratify them in some way. But the ideas that the ideas are really built upon conversation, just like we're having here. And that I feel is maybe how you feel connected, because you're obviously a very intelligent person.
you.
And once you get past that uh niceties, or the moments when you're just beginning a conversation and you're getting all the surface level stuff out of the way, and you start to get into the like real conversing, like as we're doing now, is perhaps your connection.
Yes, and I think there's it's a very unpopular opinion that I have in that I don't feel that you have an obligation to be nice.
Hmm.
You of course you are recommended to, and I do that because I like you. I like what the conversation that you're having, but I don't feel the obligation to be because, to appease you or anything. And maybe that is one of the drawbacks that have you know, alienated people, so
Mm-hmm.
to speak, from me. But if that is what they don't like about me, then I mean, find somebody else.
Yeah, it's very self-aware to say that. I mean, And yeah, I think depending where you are in the world, I mean, yeah, it's an unpopular opinion. However, that may be a defense mechanism that you've built, to keep yourself from feeling hurt. And you've invested something into somebody, you're not getting it back. Oh gosh, here we go again. Right. And I will say that you are a reflection amongst other people, right? So if I'm going out, and I've certainly experienced this, if I'm going out and I'm in a negative headspace, which certainly happens, I do notice people react differently to me because I can be sharp and I can be quick. And I can, yeah. When especially if I'm feeling cornered, I can be aggressive. And that is like perhaps not physically, but just an aggressor. And that has not served me. It has not served me to a point where I've lost jobs. I've lost friendships, right? So when I look back on instances of behaviors of my own self and the repercussions, then certainly what you say is you may have answered your question yourself, is perhaps you have created some of the alienation. Now, I'm not saying exclusively, but I'm saying that certainly could be part of the reflection that you're putting out in the world. If somebody feels, oh, people, I mean, there's so much unwritten between people. There's so much that's invisible, and body language, and there's so much that doesn't have to be voiced that people understand, right? So I challenge you to, the next time you're in that situation where that thought comes to your head that I don't know it's you to be nice. I have no, there's obligation to be kind to you. Switch that off and try to be kind. Try to smile, because just try it and see how a person reacts to you. I mean, I'm not telling you to change the fabric of your being. I'm just saying experiment with it, because you might get a reaction that's different than what you've experienced. Right? And I can speak to that for my own experiences, because people do react very well to me. And I am a kind person for the most part. But I tell you, when I've had it and I'd had a shit day or whatever's going on with me, I mean, in my marriage, I mean, my husband reacts completely different to me when I come at him in a way that is not kind. And then even when you branch out, colleagues, friends. So it really truly does start with yourself. Your responsibility is only yourself. Someone else's actions, you can't control that, but you can control your own actions. So a negative interaction opposed to a positive interaction, both of them will affect you, right? It's your choice. Now, if someone's coming at you with pistols blazing, I mean, defend yourself. But, when you have a choice, give it a try. Give it a little try, right? Because I find you very pleasant. Right? Great to talk to. Inspiring, thought-provoking, right? All these things are very positive attributes that you have. Now you just got to get past that interaction so people can see this part of you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still thinking about it. I mean, I've sort of worked it working my way through this with with the help of a psychologist and such. And I mean, it's gradually been unfolding that there may be certain things that I do habitually um that cause people to see a misimpression in some ways. So, and sure, I mean, defense mechanisms are something that's common amongst people who've went through harsh times, and it's quite possible that I may have possessed these things, have manifested these things without knowing them, and I guess it's up to me to be cognizant of them. Sure.
Mhm. For sure, man. Myself as well. Like, yeah, it's very interesting. You know, most interviews are just like blah blah blah. This isn't blah blah blah. It's a great interview. Really. Like you're accessing parts of my psyche that I really feel that in my experience as a music maker and somebody who's promoting themselves or what have you, that really you don't get to that level often. And it's just kind of like, where did you grow up and what's your favorite song and shit. But and there's a time and a place for that too. But really, I think people are thirsty. I think people are so thirsty for honesty and knowledge, including myself, that most is just kind of most you know kind of mainstream thought processes are, it's kind of tripe. Like it's boring, and I just don't think we're accessing the intellect that we truly deserve, and I do find myself kind of negating away from popular media, and because I don't feel challenged. I don't generally speaking feel challenged. Perhaps that's why I continue to study, but I do find myself on a social media, like many do, and I'm just scrolling and watching nonsensical stuff, like really, I am not feeding my soul. I'm just scrolling. And then afterwards, I have this like weird feeling of guilt that, oh my God, I'm wasting myself. I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting my abilities. You get that little shot of serotonin when you're looking at a bright screen. But I find this way more inspiring. Just shooting the breeze in with depth.
No, thank you. Very much appreciate that. I think it is kind of my purpose of doing these programs, so to speak. And it is the case that like I've alluded to earlier, that we humans I think are hesitant, so to speak, to ask certain questions that deals directly with our being. And I find that there are always the works of great philosophy and great fiction, basically the great texts from old, that when you read them today, and I mean really attentively reading them, they can shake you to the core, the way that you never expect to be. Like, and as in, like, they get into the foundation of how you live and how modern society is founded, and our obligations to ourselves, each other, the world, and etc., that you don't find in today's discourse, so to speak, which is mostly noise to me.
For sure. A lot of it is. Yeah, you're gonna have to talk to some smarty pants to feel fulfilled. Yeah, yeah, very interesting interview I've had. I'm gonna have to wrap it up soon. I'm gonna have to make my son's supper. Um, the regular responsibilities of day-to-day life that there's no choice in the matter.
Yeah.
He's got to eat.
Mhm.
But I truly hope you can find something to fulfill these lonely feelings that you're experiencing.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I feel like through these conversations, this is truly a connection, and it's very interesting. And I have to say I wasn't expecting it. So I'm glad to have met you and talked to you.
Likewise. Thank you. Send my best to Anthony. That's the name of your son.
Yes, it is.
Right. And hope you have a good day and good week.
Yourself as well. Perhaps we can do it again sometime.
Of course. Be very open to that.
Right on. Well, that was just such a pleasure.